we left off was class-based components and functional-based components, where we unclick and updates the state using the set count. And in class-based components, when we update this update count, we use the set state method. So right here, functional-based, click it. In function, I always see this happen. If I want to console log something in a functional-based component, I can just essentially console log count anywhere outside of the return, between the function, where you're actually declaring it, and the return statement. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In class-based components, it's not like that. Just remember, it's just a class. Uncomment class. Make sure it still works. If I want to console log to see like the current state, the current value of state, it can't just be like a console log just in between anywhere in the class. I have to do it in between the render and the return. So I'm just going to console log here. This state.count. See what happens. Right here, man. Like parsing error, unexpected token, just doesn't work. If I move that in the render function, which is always the last thing to call when the component is mounted onto the screen. You're going to hear these things mount, unmount, update, stuff like that. So I need to do it in between the return and the render. So right here. So here, now I can console log in class-based components in between the return and the render. All right, comment that out. We're going to continue using functional-based components. Just make sure the app still works. So functional-based app, export default app. Sure it still works. Great. So all this logic, I don't want in my core app component. I want to take it out and put it into another component that just does updating count. So in here, I might each one cookie or title of something stupid. So here, yeah, tittle. All right, cool. Title of app. I want to extract this method and put it into another app or another component somewhere else. So in our source folder, this is I create a new folder called components. And in that folder, I'm going to create another folder called buttons. Because I might have a bunch of different types of buttons I want to use throughout my app. So I might have a bunch of button components that do specific things. Inside my button, I'm going to create a file called button component.js. It's not always called like button component something component. It could just be called like, admin page, something like that. So this, button, I'm going to call it button clicker. Done. Here's my button clicker component. So if you have a linter installed, I want to create a functional based component. Bam. Already done.
Is that RSC?
RSC. Create a stateless component. I want to create a class-based class. Yeah. So. Oh, geez. RC. This is good. So that's a class component. So RSC. I want to create a functional component. So only as you mentioned before, where it says like function app. Here it's using arrow functions to create my component button clicker. Already exports default. I'm gonna say like H1. Here is the button clicker component. Cool. Now I want to use this component in my app.js, my app component. So I want to essentially take out all this logic and put it in my button clicker. So I'm going to delete this. I need to import the button clicker component into this app. Depending on your linter, you can just do button clicker. It automatically imports from the file directory components, buttons, button clicker. And now I'm rendering the button clicker component. This is how this is the syntax. It's always button clicker space / ending. Let's look at having errors. Component is defined, but never used. That's fine. Update count. Cool. Here's the button clicker component. Great. Now I want to create essentially that counter. H2 counter. Let's do the scan again. Then in here is where we're going to want to do the count like we did before. But in this button clicker, since we're using functional-based components for this one, what do I need to import to create state? Well, it's just, I'm just going to extract all this.
It's just moving all the stuff we did before.
Yeah, just moving everything else into here. State. Update count. So I need to button click me. And I need to do an on click attribute, on click, and execute this update. See if this works. There you go.
Now we could add a bunch of those buttons on this page.
So now
all
this is
individual counters.
So here's the thing. This is why. So ones that you split the UI into independent reusable pieces and think about each piece in isolation. So this app, each component is its own little thing that has its own individual state.
Instance.
Yeah, so it's got its own instance. See? Kill. Right. But I don't like to do a bunch of different ones. I want to render, say like render 10 of them. So this is just JavaScript. I wanted to render 10 buttons. And I wanted to write a method for them.
Create a function with it.
Create a function with a loop. Cool. So let's do show 10 buttons equals. Doesn't need to accept anything. And I'm going to create let buttons array. I just want to see if this is going. I haven't done this before. For let I equals 0, I less than 10, I plus plus. Buttons array dot push. What do I push in there?
Push in button clicker.
Let's see if this works. What do I want to return?
Buttons array.
Buttons array.
You wanna? Is that enough, or you have to render that?
So it says, oh yep. So show 10 buttons is not defined. So this is not a class component where you can just like update count. I actually have to const. And in here, this is JSX. JSX allows me to run JavaScript. So delete that. This is how you do JavaScript. Now what do I want to show 10 buttons? Oh, so got a little warning. Each child in a list should have a unique key property. So each child in a list should have a key property. Key, call it I. This works. There, that goes away. Cool. So I'm able to render 10 buttons just by doing 10 components.
Is that key property then how you could make those look different?
What's that?
Is that how you could make those buttons do different or look like that?
So, yeah, so there's a button clicker. Let's convert this to the class-based component now. So this is a functional base. Comment that out. So I can do class button clicker extends component. All right, component is not defined. I have to import it. Cool. Now I can do count. So I need to initialize state. I can do the constructor. Should I do the constructor? Use the constructor. Yeah. Let's create a constructor for this one. Let's pass a prop. So we're going to get to that shortly. Super props. This dot state equals count 0. And then what's the last thing that a class-based component does? What function needs to be called? Render. Render, the function, the last thing that's called. And in here, we need to return in this function, JSX. Update count is not defined. Cool, not doing that. So update count. We're doing classes now. We don't have to declare a variable to update count. Always use better functions to avoid binding this. So how do we update state in a class-based component? This dot set state that takes in state. So this count this dot state count +1. But now in order for me to access this update count in a class, 37 count. So in order for me to access this count, it's not just count, it's this dot state dot count. Everything still working? Yeah. Cool. Yep. Question. Any questions?
Wait, is the for loop in the app?
Yep, the for loop is in this app. Now, let's just go back. I don't want to do 10 buttons. Let's just display one button because the button clicker still works. So we've got one button clicker. The class-based component still works. Let's move to, let's just do everything functional. Class component. Still works. Great. The unused state is defined, but it's never used. What is that? FJS. So let's get rid of that. Do we need any of this stuff? Cool. This is a button clicker component is defined, but we might go back to using a class-based component just to see. Now, we talked about this thing called props. If I wanted to pass something into button clicker as a prop, like for example, if I wanted to change, like say styling or some styling thing may be dependent on a page or what company you work at or what page you're viewing. Maybe I want to do like, I can pass in style. You can literally pass in anything here. Anything. And, but, what do I want to change? I just want to change background, color. I want it to be color red. So I'm passing a property down from the parent, this is the parent component, into button clicker. The property is called background color, and the value is red. So now let's go into button clicker. So what is that? My button clicker. I'm gonna pass in. I'm gonna console log. So for a console log, I think can have data as state and or props. So those are actual keywords. So I want to see if I can console log props. So look, props is not defined. Search for the keywords to learn more about it. Search button clicker. So when errors come around in React, we're usually front end errors, or they're down here. It just says props is not defined. If you look over here, it'll give you a little more explanation. So this is a functional based component, and you can pass down props from the parent component, which is app. So I actually need to take in an argument called props. See, now it's working. If I refresh, there's my property. That's props. It's got a background color, it's red.
Now it's clicking that I realize that's what props is for, is for property.
Yeah, it stands for property.
Couldn't make the connector.
So if I wanted to use this for like some styling or some kind of data or anything, so style. So in a button as a style for inline styling, I can use, what is it, background? Background color. And then how do I access this background color? Props.background color. All right, nothing broke.
Is that like regular CSS syntax for the background?
Where's the color happening?
Because then I think it's background dash color, right? And is that background? You know, back.
with another D as well.
All right. The styles.
Right before on click, you were missing a D.
I'm sorry.
In the button style, you put the D, and but then props dot background, you missed it.
Second line of line 15. And background.
Toss that background color.
Second line of 15 on button clicker.
There we go. Thank you. So look, it changed it. So that's how you can pass down functional based component. So the button clicker is a functional component. If I want to retrieve props from my parent, I need to pass in props as they are. Now, what is destructure? So this is just an object, right? Props is just an object. How do you destructure? Destructuring it? So I can in cons, I can just grab background color equals props. So instead of doing props dot background color, I can do just background color. So the value of background color is red. You do it there, like in the functional component, like this.
With like you do a bunch of props, if you know there's a bunch of different properties passing through, and just break them all down the same way.
Yep. So if I wanted to pass in background color and color blue, I can do background color, style,
Do it all in the same line.
yeah, color. Oh, what? Is it comma separated? Is that blue? Yeah, that's blue. So that's how you can destructure props. You don't have to do it in here. You can also just straight up destructure in here. Like that.
So that automatically assumes props in that space then. Or-
Not if you don't pass it in. So if you don't pass in anything, you
Right.
don't have that.
But if you're putting in the destruction like that, it's automatically like you don't have to say the word props.
Props get sent to the button clicker as a object.
Yep.
So why can't you just do like const like object whatever variable name equals props and then access it like a regular object?
Not best practices. It's kind of like this. Like people hate using the word this, so let's say this equals that. They should use that.
Got it.
So this is all functional component. Still works. Go to a class-based component with props. We already kind of did it. So in order to pass in props in a class-based component, in the constructor, this is why you would need a constructor, is that you need to accept props from a parent. Because you want to load props before anything is rendered to the screen. So in here, it's just console log props. See what happens. Oh no, props is not defined. So this is a class. Remember, how do you access this? Props. Console. There's my props. And notice how every time I click it, it's console logging it. Why is that? I'm not. No, it just says update count. I'm not telling it to console log it every time I.
Because it refreshes when the state's being used.
So every time state, or depending on whether you want it to, or props changes, the component re-renders and reload. So let's copy that.
Let's say you
So it's gotta be this dot props dot background color, and this dot props dot color. Update count. Why is that? Oh shit! That's fine. Update count. Line 39. Oh, nice. Yeah. So what's the question?
let's say you wanted to change color when the counter hits the shift button.
So if that's the case, I'd probably have state. I'd have like do something in a set state for like style, and when it this counter equals a certain number, change state that. Okay. So yeah, because you never want to mutate props or state directly. You can't be like what I mean by directly. You can't be like, you know, this dot props equals or dot background color equals something. Never do that. If you're going to use props, if you're going to mutate props to use in the original state, you might want to reconsider where you want that data, or you're going to have to do a callback function that's going to update the state of the parent component, which is going to make a re-render and then pass everything down. That's the best. Keep going. So this props state, we talked about destructuring. So where would I want to destructure props in a class-based component? Right here in between the render and the return. So const background color equals this dot props. Now I can get rid of this dot props because it's just constantly still works. I'm still counts along. I don't like that button. Kind of lame. What can we do to change the button? Import something?
Bootstrap.
I don't want to do Bootstrap. Import material UI. Components. Let's actually get started. Installation. NPM, we want to install a package. So this is kind of like Bootstrap, but more in line with modern design.
Looks like it's for React.
And it's so Bootstrap is like CSS. You can do CSS attributes, where Material UI is literally just all components. They're all just React components that operate in certain things. So I'm going to kill this server, or would I just kill something else? Let me try one. So npm install material UI, or it's going to install. And let's look at our package.json file, because this is where all our dependencies, all the libraries that we install are going to go here. And you might see something show up, change. I'm on 12. Oh no, materials, so I can just do. Does anybody have any questions so far? Class-based components, state, props. See right here, material UI core just got installed. And it's now put into our package.json file.
When you're passing in props from the parent, can you pass in an object? So you don't have like a million different props like that?
Like this?
No, I mean like, so background color and color, can you just like put that in an object and just pass in the object variable?
Yeah, I think all of it.
Yeah.
Pretty sure.
Okay.
So I've got material UI installed. I'm going to start the server again. So in place of this standard button, that's taking a while to reload. You're going to see that it might take every time you start a server and update the application, it might take a little while to render. So in our button clicker, let's go back to functional components because that's the direction that React is going. Component is not defined, it's not going to use, that's fine. React components. Let's look at button. Let's use like a primary button. So we need to import button from material UI core button. That. Cool. It's compiling again every time I hit it. Don't worry about this use styles, that's just for styling. So it looks like this, it looks like this. So button. So in place of that, I'm going to do button. I don't care about the class name. That's not related to what I'm doing. Let's just run that and see what our app looks like. Ooh, that's a little bit better. Let's actually do class name. Let's do color primary. No, I like secondary. So button is a component. Secondary. There we go. Default. Let's do click. I don't really need props anymore. So I'm gonna click me an update. So material UI buttons operate in a little different way. We have, these are all props that belong to this button that I can use. I have like an on click. Trap variant, let's go assassin, create a chat. I think it's just on click. Let's see if this works. Doesn't, we'll figure it out, but we'll get kind of ahead of ourselves. Yeah, so there, it still works. Looks a little nicer. It's got that little shimmer,
Shadow there.
little drop shadow. What questions do you have about React so far? Props, state. Wanted to cover both functional-based components because you're going to be using that pretty much moving forward. Class-based components because anything historically you're going to see in your job, you're going to have to use state in functional-based components. This dot state and this dot set state to change state in class-based components, and then like set the name of your state to change state in functional-based components. You can pass props down from the parent app like this. Here's your button clicker component. You can pass down props, it can be anything. It can be like anything. to a child. And in my counter, you would do like H1. Pass in anything. You structure it here. Pass in anything. Now updating state, the set count, and this update count function that's calling on this on click. Executes this update count, set count, count plus 1. Any questions? Have a lot to consume. Now I'm going to stop. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, so with all the different properties that you can put on, that's how you can then like do different things to say if you did the 10 buttons, now you have those keys, that would be how you could like change each individual one to look like a different button there.
Yep.
Or add any other property you want to manipulate it based on that property you give it.
Yep. So let's go back to Airbnb real quick. So here, this is like a button component that has different properties passed into it, like dates, one guest, price, time of day, and it probably has a function that's also passed in as a property, as a prop.
Okay.
Same with hiking, like might have like some number value that's passed in that display like title, number of experiences, and then maybe a function when I click this, it goes to something else. So you can also pass in functions as property.
Oh, pretty powerful.
Price, so you can play time of day, different modals pop up. What's another one? Code Academy uses React. So these, like here, this is a component, probably maybe multiple components that different properties are passed in to make it say code foundation with like a description and probably maybe a list, maybe an array of subjects. And based off of that array, it might display this stuff. All